Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing. So today we are doing the tutorial for the super cute 6-drawer organizer that I showed you in the other video. So these are the supplies you're going to need. And this is for 6 drawers. If you want to continue to do 8 drawers, 12 drawers, whatever, you're just going to need to add that. So for each box, you're going to need 2 pieces of paper measuring 6 by 6. So depending on how many boxes you want, that's how many pieces of paper you're going to have. So if you're doing the 6th box, you're going to need 12 pieces of paper at 6 by 6. Okay? 12 at 6 by 6. So I don't know why I have that extra piece. Anyway, so I'm going to do one with you, one I've already scored, but they're pretty simple to do. Let me move that project out of the way. I'm going to use my art glitter glue. You can use your score tape if you want to. It's up to you. Also, keep your scraps or go to your scrap bin and get your scraps because you're just going to need some scraps to make the tops if you choose as optional. So you're also going to need a 3/4 inch corner, or excuse me, circle punch, and that's what makes our little finger tab here. You're going to need your scoreboard and, well, your paper trimmer to cut out your paper. So I'm going to use my scoreboard. I have the Martha Stewart scoreboard. I do suggest to get the blue scoreboard, the ScorePal. I have used it, and I like it better than this, but this is what I have. So there's also a little cheat sheet in here. It tells you standard size cards, and it also gives you boxes, like these little boxes over here in the measurements. And so that's what I used to create this. I saw this project on Pinterest, and I didn't want to pay for the tutorial, so I just made it up. So if you guys seen this on other sites or whatnot, I didn't copy anyone. I just made it up on my own. Well, the measurements are mine. Okay, so what you need to do is you need your base pages. So your base ones are going to be scored at 2 and 4 inches. So you're going to line it up all the way at the 0 and you're going to score at 2 and 4. And I'm going to do one box at a time. When I did these, I did all the bases first and then all the casings second. If you're assembly lining them, it may be easier to do that. Sorry, it's going to autofocus like that because I have a very old camera and you can't turn the autofocus off. So anyway, 2, 4, flip it, 2, 4. Okay, so we'll go ahead and just do each piece separately. Again, I assembly line them, but I don't want to confuse anyone, so we'll do each piece separately. So we're just going to go ahead and fold on all 4 of those score lines. You can burnish. Okay. Okay, so now we're just going to take our scissors. I like to use my Fiskars long scissors. You can use paper snips, your paper trimmer, X-Acto knife, whatever you have. And I kind of look at my box, and I know they're all supposed to be equal, but sorry, somebody just pulling in my driveway. I don't know who this is. Anyway, I just kind of see which one that I scored better on, and that's where I cut. So you're going to cut up 2 slits like that, and then you're going to flip it to the other side and cut up the 2 slits. Just traditional box making. This is how I make my boxes. Some people I know, they like to cut 1 slit from each side and wrap it around and do all this fancy stuff, but you know me, I don't do fancy. So I just kind of reinforce it. I like to connect my 2 end flaps together and then pull the bottom up like that. It's your preference if you like to do it the flap in and then connect them here. It's your preference, but the only thing I don't like about that is that sometimes the flaps don't go all the way to the end. And so if you do it this way, you don't have to worry about any of that overhang. Now, sometimes you do have to worry about overhang on the top because you didn't score exact or you didn't cut exact or whatever, but I'm not bothered by that. So it's okay with me. So I'm just going to take my glue, scribble some on this panel, and then I'm going to attach my two flaps together. Use my clippies, or as Monica calls them, your extra fingers. Put those there. Actually, I think I'm going to use these clips. It doesn't matter what clip you use. It's just the other ones tend to leave lines. And I'm going to repeat the same for the other side. If you are making a ton of these, score tape may be faster because you can just put all the tape down and boom, 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 get them all out. It just uses a lot of score tape if you do that. Honestly, for these ones, I just use a tape runner. I wasn't too bothered by. I think it's secure enough. So, all right. So just glue that, and this side is my last flap. Oh, whoa, what am I doing? This is what I get for being so nosy. And I know it's the story of my life. I'm always nosy out my window. And it's funny because I have my my blinds closed, but my dog looked out the window and now it's like open just a little bit, enough for me to see outside. So yeah. Okay. So there's your box. There's one of them anyway. So now let's do the top. Okay. So we're going to get our 6x6 piece of paper back. We're going to get our scoreboard. Now this, you really need to pay attention to what I'm about to say. It's super weird. If you have the Martha Stewart scoreboard, you will be fine. If you have the other one, I don't have one, so I don't know if there's an extra mark or not. But so just kind of listen. So you need to put your paper in between the 0 and the 1/8 mark. Okay, you don't want your paper butted all the way to the 0 because then your drawer is not going to fit in the casing. So you can do this one of two ways. The measurements are going to be 2 and 4 1/8. So if you put your paper right in between the 0 and the 1/8, then you're going to go ahead and score it at 2 and 4 1/8. But if you do not have a Martha Stewart that has this triangle to tell you between the 0 and the 1/8, then your score mark is going to be 1/8 of an inch before the 2. Actually, probably a little in between 1/8 and 1/16 of an inch. So that's why it's kind of hard. You want it just slightly before the 2. But if you line your paper up on your scoreboard in between the 0 and the 1/8 of an inch, then you can go ahead and do the 2 and the 4 1/8. So again, line your paper up between the 0 and the 1/8 of an inch, and then score it at 2 and 4 1/8. Okay, so again, if you're looking at that on a ruler, you see that score line is it's just before the 2. It's not 1 7/8. It's in between 1 7/8 and 2. Okay, hope that makes sense to everyone. So try it on some scrap paper first. Yeah. Okay, so again, we're just going to fold on our lines. Give it some varnishing. Again, if you're assembly line, I would do this part, move on to the next one. fold, 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 and then go through. This one we're gonna do it the same way. Let me see where I scored the best. This way. And cut right up to that first score line. And do the opposite side. Okay. And just making sure my box is good. I'm gonna do my tape or my glue on this one. See, if I was doing tape, I just would have flipped this one down and then this one down and put tape on those two, moved on to the next one, put tape on the next one, just kept it moving. Okay, so making sure they're lined up. And see, again, the reason why I do these inside flaps together, because see, look at that, it has that gap. And let's do the same on this side. It doesn't matter if you put right over left or left over right. It doesn't matter. Pop that over. And then now we're just going to glue. If you go gentle with the glue, you see you don't need your fingers. But the first time, I don't know, I just went ridiculous with the glue. It was way too much. And then glue this piece like so. Okay. So if you notice you have any overhang, I have a tiny smidge bit where I didn't cut very well. Just trim it off. Okay. So it should, it should fit one opening facing you, one opening to the top, and pop it in. So the way that I've been doing it, honestly, is the part that has the 3 layers of cardstock. Okay, this one you can see. Remember when we put the 2 flaps and it has a 3 layer? I want those 3 layers to be the top and the bottom because that's just going to give us some extra stability for the top and the bottom. With your drawer, you want the 3 layers to be right and left. Does that make sense? I hope it does. So on your drawer, one of the sides that does not have the 3 layers, you're going to take your 3/4 of inch punch, circle punch. And the only reason why I chose this one is because it fits perfectly. You don't have to measure the middle because the punch is the same size as the box, and so you're going to be middle every time. Go about halfway, pop it out, and that is the front of your drawer. So we'll go ahead and I'll make one more with you. Again, the base is 6x6 piece of paper, scored at 2, scored at 4, flipped, scored at 2, scored at 4. And fold it and varnish. Fold and varnish and fold and varnish. Let's go ahead and cut these lines. 1 and 2. 1 and 2. Okay. Just kind of manipulating my paper here. I don't know if you have to do that extra step, but I do. I like to. That's all that counts. Easy on the squeezy. Tabs up. And again, glue. Tabs together. Glue. Pull it up. Other side. And this one, I kind of, I don't know what I did, but it has a little extra scraggly bit. I'll just cut those off. Glue. And pop it up. Okay. Right. That's the what is that, the drawer? Okay. Again, the top, line your paper up between the 0 and the 1/8, and then score at 2 and 4 and an 1/8. Flip it, line it up between the 0 and the 1/8, score it at 2 and 4 and an 1/8. We're going to go ahead and chomp it up. 1 and 2, flip it. 1 and 2. Okay, and just kind of manipulating it all again. Oh, this one I had already folded and varnished before I cut. Sorry. Forgot to say that. Okay. Glue on the flap. Okay, pop you guys in. Glue on the flap. I don't know why I always leave that side. I could have just did all of it at once, but I don't. Do that. Because this side, obviously, I glue right away, but doesn't matter as long as it gets done in the end, right? Okay. And honestly, if you forget to label what is what, then you can just, before you punch your hole, dang, I did not do this one very nicely. Okay. Just make sure you have your 3 layers top and bottom. And here you go. So now on this smaller piece, the side that is just single layered, we're going to do half a circle, so semicircle. And voila, that is your box. And again, this one I did not, I mean, it's like 1/8 of an inch off. I don't think it's going to matter, but it might for your OCD. Okay, now how I put them together, honestly, I just glued them. So I took the drawers out. So we're taking the insides out, making sure that the triple layer is top and bottom. And we're going to glue the single layer sides together. So this is where I pay attention to how well I cut my box, because whichever triple layer looks the best, that's the one you want on top. So I literally just glue them together. I like to match the backs of the box up. I probably should match the front, but I match the backs. And I'm just smushing it. Maybe I'll use my fingers for this one. Just give it a second. Again, you can use your score tape if you want, but to me, arc glitter glue is just as strong, so it just takes a second to dry. And plus, I think trying to put score tape on this is a pain. Let me see. I mean, you have to kind of go in, and I'm just showing you the score tape way if you want. I think it takes more time, unless you're assembly lining and you have someone that can put the tape on for you. But then you have to like cover, I think you have to cover the whole thing. I say glue is easier. I don't know. I mean, if you have score tape sheets, maybe it'll be easier. You can just do 2 by 2 inches, and that will give you the full coverage. But whatever. This is really good too. Like if you have that friend who wants to help you, but they're just not crafty, they can do the glue part, or the add score tape for you. So I want my triple layers to be top and bottom. This one I did an oopsie daisy on the score line. This box here, so that's why I was like really confused with it. Because I have like 2 score lines, but that's okay. Okay. So that's all I did. Now for the bottom layer, I just took my scraps, and what did I do with my scraps? Somewhere around here. Oh, seriously? Oh no, I just took my scraps and I cut it at 2 inches. Mine were 2 inches by 12. Wow. Oh, here they go. They're the same color as my desk. And then I just cut it down. Mine measured about 6. And yours are going to be a different measurement depending on how you put them together. Mine were just over 6 they were 6 3/8. So 2 inches by 6 3/8. But to be honest, I just cut it at 6 1/2, and I'm just going to cut off whatever we don't need. So again, I just glued it. You can put score tape around the perimeter and glue in the middle if that makes you feel better. Why not? Okay. And then I just glued it down, lining up one edge. And then doing it this way, like having the scrap piece bigger, you don't have to line up the 2 edges perfectly because you can just always trim it. So I'm just pushing in the box to make sure we have that good adhesion. I feel with the triple layers that this step just may be just extra. Like I honestly don't think we need it, but you know how we are. Okay. So for this one, I put it on the top and the bottom because I know I'm just going to glue this right on top like so. So this one I just put on the top. And I didn't cut that very well. Okay. Now, if you want to, again, for your stability OCD, you can take your other scraps and cut a piece that is 2 by 1 7/8. Where's my paper trimmer? To add stability to these inside layers. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. I am showing you guys the extra steps. I mean, the one for my house, I didn't do that. But, you know, if you're giving as a gift, the more is better, right? So the reason why I did 1 7/8 is so that way I don't have to line them up exactly. I can just do the 2 inches going up and down and the 1 7/8 coming out, so that way it doesn't stick out. So you can do 1, 2, 3, like 1, 2. I just did, I can't remember what I did. I did a piece here, so 2 definitely, and maybe 1 piece on either side, so we can do 4 if you want. 2 7/8, or excuse me, 2 by 1 7/8. Again, I just did that smaller measurement so that way I don't have to worrying about lining it up exact and trying to cut it and whatnot. No thanks. So you see one side, it's going to pop out like that. So just flip it so that way it doesn't pop out. You want the 1 7/8 part, the 1 7/8 going left to right. Does that make sense? Well, when you put it in your box, it will. You can use chipboard. I'm using the linen cardstock. I feel the linen cardstock, especially this craft, if you double it up, to me it's the same thickness as chipboard. Well, almost as thick as chipboard. So I think it's okay. And then with all the extra glue, if you use glue, wet glue, it hardens. So I feel it is stable enough. Like I said, the one for me, I didn't do these extra stability flaps, but this one I will. Okay. Oopsies. So put that right on in there. And then this one I put on this side, so that way this middle box wasn't squished in. Because that's, you got to be careful when you start adding you know, pieces in here, you got to remember that you got to put these drawers back in. So you don't want to add too much. And honestly, chipboard, now that I think about it, may be too much. I don't know. Okay. At this point, we can and see how it made it just a little bit snugger. Is that a word? It made it more snug. And you can do these pieces, like the wraparound pieces, in different colors if you want. That'd be cute. So now you're just going to adhere your top boxes to your bottom boxes. I'm going to go ahead and take the drawers out. Just so I don't have to worry about getting glue on them and whatnot. And then I'm just going to glue here. Again, you can put your score tape around the perimeter. And then I had to make sure that wasn't the part that I've already put a topper on. I mean, I guess you could do another topper. And then, see, like my top is slightly smaller than my bottom. Like that's just how I somehow came out to do that. So I don't know how that happened, but it did. I guess I squished the boxes harder. Okay. So if yours, so my first one wasn't, it lined up evenly. So I didn't have to worry about the side pieces not matching, but this one didn't come out even, and it's fine, as you can see. This again is optional. If you want to add a side piece, you can, and you can add a back piece. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's measure and add. So for my box, it is 4 3/8. 4 3/8. It should be by 2. So that's 4 1/3. So 4 3/8 is the tick mark between the quarter and the half. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to glue that on. I'm sure you can just take one continuous long piece of paper and wrap it all around if you want, but I think that would cause more stress. Okay, so there's that. And mine is slightly off in the back. I don't know if you can see that 1/8 of an inch. I'm just going to trim it with my scissors, the smaller ones, because they'll get up in there. Okay. Okay. And then again, the other side. And I'm just using my craft cardstock scraps that I had, you know, in my box. 1 3. Okay. Again, 2 by 4 3/4. Probably should have measured because, you know, you should always measure twice, cut once, but I live on the edge. And I just went ahead and took that little tiny sliver. So it's like a 1/16 of an inch, so I don't have to cut it with scissors. So it's just slightly less than 2 inches, I guess. I mean, yours, like I said, you have to measure because yours is going to be different depending on how tight you squeeze your boxes, because you saw my bottom row and my top row were different. Slightly different. It doesn't matter because right here you can see where they were different, but I'm going to cover that back. And I don't know, I might cover it with pattern paper. I don't know, you guys will see. I know earlier I was talking like I've already decorated one. I don't have it decorated. I did one, but I don't have it decorated. So actually, I'm just going to cover this back with the leftover. No, I'm not. Do I have another scrap of craft? So I have a ton of scraps left over from National Scrapbooking Day. Whatever paper you used, if you did Monica's book, that would be a perfect. Oh, look at that. Perfect. Those are perfect scraps to use because I had a lot of scraps from that, and that would make this box perfect. Honestly. Okay. So that scrap worked out. To measure, I'm looking at 6.5 by 4 3/8. That's what my measurements are. 6.5 by 4 3/8. The only thing I don't like about this 6.5 is that it's right in the crease of my trimmer, so sometimes it's not 6.5. 1 and 3. I always have to count the eighths. I can't just look at it and know. Oh. Okay, so there's the back of mine. It fits perfectly. You can do some fancy hinges if you want, like, you know, the hinges that I love to do, where you score it at 1/2 and cut it at 1. If you really want to wrap these, you can do that. I'll show you what I mean by that in a second. I can't glue and talk, apparently. Okay, so pop this down. Just make sure it's lined up. And what I mean by that is, see how on this one you can kind of still see that little tiny 1/8 of an inch. If you want it to be precise, you can take your hinges, or maybe you do this with your pattern paper, I don't know, but you score at 1/2, cut at 1, fold it in half like this shape, and then that will cover those seams. I am okay with the 1/8 of an inch showing. I'm okay with that. Like this one I got almost exact. Actually, this is a little bit over, so I'm just going to trim that out. It's all about your peace of mind, I guess. I'm not going to do all that extra work of hinges and whatnot. I'm not. Whichever from the top or the bottom looks the best. I think this way. I'm going to go ahead and put my drawers back in. And see, they should all fit. It shouldn't matter what box goes where. And there's my organizer. So, super cute. And then you can put like your paper clips, or let me see what I have on my desk. I got a paper clip. The lid to your thing. Whatever you want, store in the box. Super cute, super quick. Even with me going super slow, you see it's only about 30 minutes. After I made the prototype, the box took maybe like 15 minutes with you assembly line everything. So these are super fun, super fast. Imagine these at Christmas, your advent calendars. And you know what I'm thinking about it? I actually have a wooden one in my closet that's like this. It's a Christmas tree shape. So you can change the shape if you want. It doesn't have to be a rectangle. Just, you know, make sure you fit your boxes in, because you're just gluing them together. So glue them into whatever shape you want and add panels on the side. And you can, I mean, you can make this into a triangle. You can do whatever you want. So there you are, guys. Thanks for watching. Bye.